Hi everyone, as explained, I'm Vicky Turner, 27 years old. If that's of any relevance when you're listening to my career path so far. As Christine said, I'm Vice Chair of Nova's CIUB. I'm currently a site manager at Taylor Wimpey East London on their Major Projects Division. And so far I've been working 7 years in construction, and that is from an official site manager role. So I was backwards and forwards, but I'll explain that later. So the beginning of my career path, I wanted to be a site manager from quite a young age. My dad was a site manager. Construction has been my life, so for some reason it was attractive to me. I went to my careers advisor at my high school, sat down, and they warned me against being in construction. It wasn't for females. I should try a better profession. I was advised to go down an interior design type route. Through that and some negative feedback from my family, not necessarily my mum and dad, maybe my dad a little, but I was put off, and I ended up going to a 3D design course in Liverpool College. So I did a couple of years there. I did very well in the course. I got triple distinction, as you can see, but it wasn't for me. I knew it wasn't for me. I was forever being told I didn't think outside the box enough. I have quite a common sense type head on. I like things that make sense, and to me design doesn't make any sense. So I decided that wasn't for me. Against all the advice of my lecturers, I ended up applying for some site manager and construction management degrees. During the design course, I started a part-time job just as a soft furnishings assistant, but I got involved a lot with the fitting and installation side of it. So again, I was being drawn more towards the DIY type path than I was the design route. I did a lot of part-time work while I was going through my college course, and then when I started at uni. As you can see, I learned a bit of plastering. That was my main trade, but various other things, kitchen fitting, tiling. This was all partly for money, as you all probably know. Being a student is quite a difficult life, so I wanted to fund my car and my travel, and so that all helped towards that. So I started my university degree at Kingston University. It was initially I signed on to the 3-year. I wanted to go straight from beginning to end, no gap placement. Wanted to get it done over and done with and out to work. So as me and my fellow peers, and I'm sure as you've done, you make a bond between certain people, and there's groups you always work within if you can. So this was my chosen team. My next slide, and I don't know why, but there's some horrible vicious rumour that in year one none of your grades count at university, and everyone was forever telling us, don't worry about year one, have fun, have a party, they don't count towards your finals grade. What everyone forgets is those grades are the ones that everyone sees when you're going to look for your gap year placements and your job interviews. So when you put that CV on the table and they look at your first year and they go, why have you failed those modules? And then you've got to try and explain yourself. So I knuckled down, got in there with my grades. Obviously I was I can see there's a few females in the room here. I was one of 2 females on my course, and I was the only one that made it to the end of it. So I was trying to better myself and make sure that I was shining out amongst everybody else in the group. At year 2 I had to start applying for my gap year placement. I don't know if any of you have started looking at this yet, but I don't think the experience is ever, no one ever quite believes how stressful it's going to be. I put in thousands of applications. I can't even count how many letters I wrote to people. First of all, you start picking the companies you really want to work for, and you go for those companies. Then you just get desperate and you just apply to everyone. and I was sending out CVs, letters, phone calls. In the end, I ended up sending out CVs in my brother's name because I was adamant that maybe it was because I was a woman. So I got a few back eventually. A lot of my peers were getting interviews thick and fast, which is why I sent the one out in my brother's name. I had quite good grades, I had far better grades than they did, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't being called in for an interview. But I found that the best way was to approach people directly. If you start flooding people's mailboxes, they just get bored of seeing the CVs, I'll be honest. I'm now in that position where I get them myself. And you've really got to have a CV that shines out, otherwise you're not even going to get a look in. Application process really stressful, interview process probably even more so. As you can see, I mean, I interviewed for all of the companies up there, and some of their interview processes they really do put you through the mill. A lot of those I had to sit in psychometric testing. I was interviewed by 4 or 5 different people. The Wilmot Dixon one was an all-day job. I was absolutely physically and emotionally exhausted by the end of it. But I was very lucky I got offered all of those jobs. And then you have to go through the difficult process of deciding which job you want. I could have gone the easy route, which all my friends were doing, and picking the one that was offering most money. I didn't, and I'm so glad I didn't, to be honest with you. I ended up taking the job with United House. They were offering the least money out of all of them, but it's the one that my gut feeling I felt most comfortable. I felt that if I started off there, I wouldn't just be a number, that I'd end up being someone to them. It was a business that was a sort of family-run business that was growing in the industry, and I wanted to be part of their growth. So I took that one on. So I started off there as a trainee. I did a year with them full-time on site between my second year and last year of university. It was a bit of a late decision. I changed to the sandwich course, and I was advised that people want to see experience and the academics, and so this is why I did the site managing here. I was immediately chucked in the deep end by my site manager at the time. He first of all told me to build a mock-up, and then once I did that successfully, he threw me at the smallest building on the job. Now, for someone who's okay, I've got a little bit of construction experience, and yeah, I did quite well at the first 2 years of uni, but the site experience is completely different. I went there a shy, withdrawn person that would quite happily just working on their own, and suddenly I've got great big blokes shouting at me about why they can't get on or what I'm doing wrong. So it was a challenge for me. I then went, when I got to the end of the year, United House then offered me sponsorship through my final year, through the work I'd done successfully with them. Again, that was a real benefit to me. As you all know, the fees are a lot now. Not paying the last year of the fee was brilliant help to me, but they also offered me a part-time role with them. So I stayed on part-time, and I did a couple of days at Union and a couple of days with United House. I was at the front end of one of their jobs in London, and I had to do a lot of the design-based stuff, so it was very early doors. We weren't really building much, but it was going through drawings and pulling them apart, basically. Again, that's where the degree really came into its own. I wouldn't have been able to do that without the 2 years. So it really does show that you can't do one without the other. I had a bit of a mad moment during university. I decided to take on 3 jobs. So I was working part-time at United House. I still had my Saturday job in the soft furnishing shop, and I was working in the Construction and Builds Advice Centre, Academics Advice Centre, during my lunch breaks at uni. It nearly killed me. But all of those 3 experiences I don't regret for a minute. Everyone kept saying to me I was mental, because they were all out partying, I was out working. But I think it's important to say that when I got to the end of my degree, I was able to go straight away, put a house deposit on. I was not in too much student debt. I had quite good experiences. My CV shone out there because they can see that I've got quite a good work ethic, so it makes you stand out. So I graduated with a first. I also got an award, a separate award. It was a Traffic and Transportation Award. This is what you were working towards. No one describes this feeling, but and I don't know if I can describe it myself, but when you walk up there and you get that roll of paper, it's like this massive weight has been lifted off your shoulders, and all them 4 years of hard work were all worth it. And my parents, I've never seen them so happy and so proud over anything. So if anything, that's what you're all striving towards. So going forward, leaving university, United House took me on full time. They made me an offer and it was subject to my grades, which obviously I received. And I was then able to work on this project here, Central St Giles, worth 12 million to us, just the fit out of it alone. So as you can tell, it's a hefty sum. I was one of 2 assistant site managers. I run the top 6 floors, so that included the penthouse. That job was probably one of the highlights of my working career. It nearly killed me, but it really was worth it. And I'll show you some of my experiences through that in a minute. My second project, The Fold, this was in Sidcup, Kent. I was site manager here, promoted. I had one other working with me, and I somehow, and I still don't know how, managed to turn around all these apartments by myself, again as a fit-out manager. So I was dealing with clients and at the front end as well, trying to make sure they're all ready. I then was promoted again to lead fit-out manager, and this was for Grange Walk, Bermondsey. This is one of the largest jobs I've worked on. Lots of blocks, 5 blocks there. And it was for a private client, so Notting Hill Housing. I don't know if you know, big client, one of the biggest in London at the moment. And again, this was a hard challenge for me. I was running a big team. Everyone was quite a lot older than me in my team, and they had quite a lot more years' experience in the construction industry. So you have to be able to stand up there and guide a load of people that think they know better than you, and be confident with it. So again, this is sort of developed me through. So I did this exercise at one of my training courses at Towimpey actually. They asked us to do a brainstorm of all the different roles that go into being a site manager, and straight away you go with the obvious ones, bit of technical management, bit of traffic marshalling, and then you start getting into the nitty gritty and you're thinking, well actually most of them I have to play mum to. I'm on a daily basis, I'm agony aunt, there's problems, there's issues, I'm a referee, there's an argument. You really are, it's a big role, and I don't think in the construction industry anyone realises some of the stuff you have to take on, and I know it's like that for a lot of the other jobs, civil engineering for example, and project managing, even that again, you think you're going to get, under project manager, you think you're going to get a nice team and they just run themselves and it's all hunky-dory, you have to be all these millions of people. So the highlights for me have been the team that you end up working with and the people that you meet along the way. I was with this team for quite a few years. United House was very much of the thoughts that if it wasn't broken, don't try and fix it. And our team was quite successful together, so we went throughout. So we ended up getting quite a lot of health and safety awards, and we're all sat there at an important awards event. Meals and dinners and awards events like that, I wouldn't have been able to attend if it wasn't for being in the industry doing the job I was doing. Alongside that, I work quite a lot with the Considerate Constructors scheme, so I have a lot of initiatives we have to do with our community. We do a lot of community events, so I've had to do visits to children's hospices and things like that. Again, things that I probably wouldn't have thought of doing, but we've done it with work, and now I've had what a wonderful experience seeing all those little children and giving them Easter eggs, and so I've had some fantastic opportunities through the job. One of my biggest highlights for me, I got nominated and awarded highly commended in the Duke of Gloucester Award for Young Achievers. Again, another highlight, meet royalty, you have to learn your royal bow and all that. Everyone's really nervous, but fantastic evening. Really, really and it makes all those years of hard work and efforts all worth it. So doing my bit with my CIOB hat on, as I said, I'm chair of Novus. I've been part of the Novus group for a couple of years. I actually fell into it a bit by accident, to be honest with you. I was one of these people that attended my whole of my university degree, a student member of CIOB, but not really using them to their full benefit. And I'm absolutely gutted when I look back now. I'm kicking myself. They have so much to offer in terms of help and guidance in your career path, in your modules, in all of your lectures, all of your coursework. Also, and an important thing on the CIOB, and I know they say that the networking isn't so important. To me, that's one of the most vital. The people you meet along the way. I have come across some fantastic colleagues and friends now through the different various different activities and things they put on. For example, a couple of my team from my last job I recruited through meeting them through the CIOB. I have United House now have a number of site managers that we got through CVs that were given to me through the CIOB. If, as an employer, if I'm going through a job lot of CVs and sometimes they come in piles, you flick through the ones that have got good grades, you flick through the ones that have got experience, put them on the pile, and then you look down the ones that are the CIOB members, because they're the ones that are committed to their career, they're the ones that are keeping it up to date, and they're the ones that you're trying to stand out, basically. So currently I'm working for Taylor Wimpey. I was new there from September. I got taken on for their major projects division. It's quite a small division with large projects. We are a massive step away from the Taylor Wimpey standard buildings. Taylor Wimpey, as you probably know, are well renowned for house building, house bashing as we like to call it in the industry. We don't do that. In my region, we are building massive concrete frames. I'm doing one at the moment on the Olympic Park. Fantastic, because I'm obviously with the first set of residential after the Olympic Village. We're right next to the velodrome. We're in an area which is obviously very up and coming, very highly sought after because it is ex-Olympic site. So that's what I'm managing at the moment. We have got, at the moment, the count's about 560 units going up there. At the moment, I'm managing 130 of those which are currently being built, and my colleague's managing another 100. And they're the only ones under construction, so I'm one of two site managers. Massive project. At the moment, on Taylor Wimpey, I'm doing my own design management, so again, that's where the university degree comes in. I do all my programming, again, that comes in from that. And then obviously I'm the site manager there, so site manager experience from United House has helped me massively with that. On top of that, I do a lot of customer care issues and sales things, so that's where you're talking to people and where you're developing your social skills and the CIOB and attending all of that. That's where that's helped me massively, because as I said, I was this nice, quiet little person that wouldn't talk to anyone, and now through the CIOB I'm sort of developing and standing, giving presentations, and that all builds on what you're going to do in the future. So my future, a little bit unknown, hence my crystal ball. I've cut none of that off. I'm looking at senior site manager. I'm hoping that I'm going to get that with Taylor Wimpey. I can then move to project manager. I then go to a regional director, the paths are, and that's another thing about construction, paths are quite interlinked and you can go so many different ways with it. If I wanted to, I could step sideways and go design manager and go up the design manager's technical route and stay sort of off-site, so there's so much freedom there. I can move company. At the moment the offers out there are thick and fast. Another reason to be part of the CIOB and getting your networking in. I cannot count how many jobs I've had offered through people who I've met through the CIOB. The industry is very much working on headhunters, and your name gets out there in the industry and then everyone gets hold of it and everyone wants it. If you keep yourself to yourself, you're probably not going to get anyone after you for jobs because they don't have no idea where you are. If you Google my name now, I'm sure I'll come up as an award winner this and working for someone else that, and Novus CIB. That's where you want to be. You want to be up there, so you're sort of shining out. At the moment, I'm currently working towards my MCIB. I'm going through the PDP route, so I've signed up and I'm collecting all my evidence as I'm going through my project of my programming and stuff. My advice for anyone who is thinking about doing this: start your MCIB when you start your jobs. If you start collecting and you get into that habit of collecting once you've finished uni and you're doing your jobs, but once you first started, you'll find it really, really easy. I went the stupid way. I took a nice year off and just concentrated on my job for a year. I got out of the habit of doing coursework, got out of the habit of doing deadlines, got out of the habit of reporting to lecturers and all of that. And then getting back into that habit is a disaster. It's an absolute nightmare. So yeah, that would be my advice. If you're going to do an MCIB, start your job, start your MCIB, and get cracking on it while you're in that mind frame, while you're in that university mind frame. That's me. Has anyone got any questions?
What sort of stuff are you gathering for your MCIB, and how much of it do you need?
So the MCIB has a certain amount of categories you have to meet, and then it has it has a list of evidence. So for example, you have to give evidence of leading a team. You have to give evidence of which you can put like a hierarchy in. You can have to give evidence of chairing a meeting. So you can put the set of meeting minutes in that you've typed that you were chairing. You have to give evidence that you can program correctly, so you just put. So it's like I say, it's so easy if you do it from day one when you start working. If you just start collecting your evidence there, it's absolutely really easy. So you've just got to get in the habit of copying it over to the folder. They give you a nice little USB stick, copy it all over on that, job done, and then someone just signs it off at the end. Simple, she says.
Do you have much freedom in the project? Choose, like can you choose hotels or choose care homes or?
Yeah, so depending on what contractor you're with, that's a key part of the choice and why I chose United House. I wanted to go into residential building. That's what I wanted to do. That was my dream. That was my ambitions. A lot of my friends went for like RG Group and people like that. They do a bit of student accommodation, but they're mainly IKEA and Sainsbury's and things like that. So really important to choose what company you're going to apply for properly, and do a good bit of research into what they do build and what they previously built. Once you get in that company, initially you probably don't have a lot of say. They put you where you're taken, basically. Once you've got a name for yourself, you've got a certain amount of you can have say-so really. So, for example, the Grange Walk one I chose to go on, and the Fold Sidcup one I chose to go on. When I did Sidcup, I actually chose to move away from the team I was working with, the team I showed you in all the photos, and that was for my own development because I felt that I'd done so many jobs with the same team that we all get into little habits. We all have these roles, and my colleague Alex was doing such and something, and I'd do something else, and we'd all back each other up, and I wanted to make sure that I could work amongst other people. So I threw myself into another team, a completely new team. I didn't know any of them at all, and that was successful too. So that's another one that builds up your confidence. But yeah, you do have a certain amount of say-so. And then if not, you can obviously move companies and try somewhere else. So hence my move to Taylor Wimpey.
Whilst you were doing your part-time work and your extracurriculum sort of activities, how did you find to best balance out the studying to get good grades and
it's
all
hard
this extra
work.
stuff?
It is really hard work, and I'm not saying I didn't go out, because I did socialise and I did go out, but I wasn't one of these people that was out every night and all weekend. I was commuting back and forwards to my home. So I lived in student accommodation during the week, so that was good because the evenings, if you shut your door in your room and you can work away, I found that I was doing a lot of my coursework and things in the evening in between lectures, and then I'd go home for the weekend, do my Saturday job, and then spend all of Sunday studying generally and a bit of time for the family. But it is really difficult to get that balance right. But that is the same now, and probably the same now. you get so into your job role that it's very easy to just stay there all night, and you could, to be honest with you. While the site's open, you can be on site all day, but the minute the site's closed, you've got umpteen million pieces of paperwork and programs and health and safety stuff, and it starts piling up, and I end up sitting there, and that's probably one of the mistakes I made up early on in my career. I worked far too much, far too many hours, and then you end up getting tired, and then you end up being really grouchy, and then you end up almost being really unproductive because you just can't take it anymore, and you start losing it. So it's getting that balance right, and I think I've slowly started to get there, just about, but I'm still learning. Like I say, I've been here 7 years, and I'm still trying to get that balance right, so it is a fine art. What else?
Okay, those of you who work, which I'm presuming the guys in the main in the focus table, Vic's aspiring to senior site manager. She's aspiring to project management. Would you employ her?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
Why? What? And